Everybody is tripping the fuck out because of Donald Trump's tariffs. The market arguably went bear territory, minus 10%, minus 20%, wild swings, and people are tripping. Should I sell? What should I do? I don't know. Donald Trump's crazy. This isn't gonna work. This is gonna work. Who knows what the hell? China and the US going to battle over tariffs and trade wars and all these other things. Did I trip out? No. The reality is I did not trip out. In fact, I doubled down. I bought more. Trump came in, as soon as he started announcing the tariffs on imports to America. Now, I think 70 countries have come to the table saying 0 for 0. We'll stop tariffing US's exports if you stop tariffing our imports. 0 for 0, because we control consumption. So now you have 70 countries coming to the table saying 0 for 0, except for China. When you have the leverage, it's easier to say, fuck off. And so as you grow your business career, as you personally develop, applying these principles to you, figure out and position yourself to where if you're going to negotiate, you have maximum leverage. So you can tell whoever you're negotiating against to just fuck off if they don't take your terms. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the End-to-End Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Young Win, also known as the Prolific Ninja or Ninja by my family and friends. And because my fans are my friends, you can call me Ninja too. This is the End-to-End Podcast, the Alpha to the Omega, the beginning, the end, time of life, motivation, drive, success, self-improvement, and offering you morsels in this all-you-can-eat buffet called life. Mwah. Back in my conference room here in Houston, Texas. Glad to be back, man. It has been a travel junket all throughout the last 4 weeks. Just got back from a week long in Vegas. Way too long. Just now recovered, but back in the conference room to get you another episode, a really, really important and poignant one today. But before we get into that, I want to get into the how I start every podcast, and that is with an expression of gratitude. If you're new to the podcast, every day I wake up, open my eyes. The first thing I do is thank God and the universe for an opportunity to be great and hopefully inspire one person, at least one person, to live to their fullest controllable potential. And hopefully that's going to be you today. But with that, I want to thank everybody out there that has helped and supported and liked and commented and shared this podcast and all our shorts, all our clips, all our reels. Over the last 3 years, we have not missed a single week in 3 years since we've launched this podcast of getting an episode to you on a weekly basis. So with that, I want to thank you all. And so that's the way this show actually works, because I do this on my own dime, on my own time. Obviously, we're here in my conference room, so we're using my space. And I have a whole production team that I pay money to get this content to you for free. And so we do this by a karmic balance, which means to you, if you learn something from this episode or any other episode, or if you learned anything, even by like 0.001%, share the show. You do not want to owe me a karmic balance for the benefit you get out of this. Just share the show. That's how we grow. Like I say, if you're knowledge swole, share the show. That's how we grow. So back in the studio, or back in my conference room, once again, it's mass chaos out in the markets right now. Mass chaos, right? And people are freaking out. I'm in, messaging groups or groups, very educated, very smart, very intelligent, wealthy individuals, supercar groups, wealthy individual groups, mastermind groups. Oh, what should I do? I don't know. Donald Trump's crazy. This isn't going to work. This is going to work. Who knows what the hell? China and the US going to battle over tariffs and trade wars and all these other things, right? People tripping the fuck out. So what is the lesson here, though? Did I trip out? Well, I was in Vegas, so, no. But the reality is I did not trip out. In fact, I doubled down. I bought more. Okay, now how did I know to do this, or why did I do this? And I could be totally wrong, and let me qualify this. This is not formal financial advice, okay? Do not follow anything that you hear today about what you should do with your own money. Consult with your lawyer, financial advisor, or whatever. But for me, I doubled down. Why did I do that? Because the key here in life, in business and success is if you know the bigger plan, these near-term, in front of your nose gyrations of variables and markets and all these other things don't affect you. In fact, if you know the big plan, you're looking at near term for more opportunities within the bigger plan. See, I knew when Trump got elected that he was going to go to trade wars with all these countries. Why? Because again, I think before the election, I did a podcast on how in debt we are. The United States, not we, well, we might be, but the United States is in debt. That in 2025, we would have over $9 trillion of debt that we had to repay at high interest rates, right? So in that context, I knew, and I don't know the exact plan, but I knew that Trump getting elected, he would have to do something related to that $9 trillion in debt that's due this year so that we avoid essentially a Great Depression, number two. Yeah, I believe in cycles. This is 2025. What happened in 1929 and what's going on in 2029? That's 100 years. 1929, Great Depression. 2029, we're looking like we're getting there if we don't do something. So with that $9 trillion in debt that that needed to be repaid, I knew Trump had to do something. And here we are. He's doing something. Tariff wars. Right? But the reality is this is like peeling off a ultra sticky, ultra big, ultra, bloody Band-Aid off of a big ass freaking wound economically. That's what this tariff trade war is. It's ripping the Band-Aid straight off because people don't know this, but other countries tariff our exports all day long, but we don't do the same, right? Which means we print the money. We don't produce that much, but when we export, they tax our exports to get into their countries, right? But what people don't realize is that the United States is the ultimate consumer of goods in the world. 40% of consumption is here in the United States. So the trade imbalance is that we're getting tariffs exporting, but we're letting cheap goods in without tariffs. And we keep buying and buying and buying. We keep printing money, buying and buying and buying, and then sending our money to these other countries. And that's leaving a gaping hole in the economic infrastructure of the United States. So this tariff war was a long-term plan to do two things. One, right? If the stock market goes down, stocks and bonds trade opposite. So if stocks goes down and bonds goes up, well, the third component is interest rates go down. This is my master's. If y'all don't know, I have a master's in finance, so I kind of understand a little bit of this. Stocks goes down, bonds go up because people go to safer assets. Bonds are safer than stocks. And when you buy bonds, the interest rates go down. Well, with interest rates goes down, now we have $9 trillion of debt that needs to either be refinanced or repaid in this year. Trump or whoever's in charge of the economic policy can refinance that debt at lower interest rates to save the American economy, essentially. So when you look at the 10-year Treasury, it went from 5% down to below 4%. In fact, I think right now before this, we're doing this recording on Wednesday. It's hit the 3%. When you do 1.5% on $1 trillion, that's a lot of fucking money that we're saving. So that's the first thing. But the second thing that Trump came in with his tariff war is to rebalance trade. Rebalance trade. As soon as he started announcing the tariffs on imports to America, now I think 70 countries have come to the table saying 0 for 0. We'll stop tariffing U.S.'s exports if you stop tariffing our imports. 0 for 0, because we control consumption. Countries cannot sustain their economy if their goods cannot get into the United States. If a country wants to get goods in the United States with a high tariff, Americans won't buy, their products become prohibitively expensive. And so the U.S. consumer will buy U.S.-based goods, which is great. More production, more manufacturing in the U.S. So now you have 70 countries coming to the table saying 0 for 0. My birth country, Vietnam, is in the White House today talking about 0 for 0 tariffs. Except for China. Right? China has drawn the line in the sand and say we're going to war economically against the United States. They raised tariff, so Trump raised tariff, and they re-raised, and now Trump is at like 100%, 110% tariff or something like that. Likely China's going to 80%. Kevin O'Leary, the great Kevin O'Leary, the Canadian entrepreneur, multi-billionaire, suggests is that we should go to 400% against China because they rip off our intellectual property and all these other things. So we are actually going to economic war with China, which is expected because next to America, they're the biggest next superpower, rising superpower, right? But in that instance, today, this Wednesday, not too long ago, maybe an hour ago, Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs against every country except China. Right? This is 5D economic chess that if you don't see it from a bigger picture, the bigger plan, you don't understand what's going on. So when he announced the pause, what did the stock market do? It ripped $4 trillion in value higher. I saw one trader, he bought a $1,000 option on the S&P 500. In 4 hours, that $1,000 turned to $1.4 million. That's how fast you can make money when there's volatility. Unfortunately, I wasn't in that trade. I was busy recording. So, but my point being is that if you know the bigger plan, you don't let these near-term movements and shocks and all these other things affect you. Like sometimes they will. They'll alter your view on what the plan is. But if you know what the bigger plan is and you know that big plan cannot move, then you stick the course and you find opportunities underneath that. And that's a lesson here for your pathway to success, for your plan to get out of your situation and grow as an individual and grow, in your professional or financial life. Okay. And then the second major takeaway, the second or third major takeaway in this, and Trump embodies this. And I'm not a Trumpster. I picked the best option at the time, and that was Trump, between Trump and Biden. But I will point out Trump's faults or his policy faults when I see them. But there's one thing you can learn about him. You have to understand his background, right? He is a New York City, Manhattan real estate mogul, right? To get that successful as a real estate developer in Manhattan, you got to basically be a gangster. He learned to move like a gangster by becoming a real estate developer tycoon in Manhattan. Because think of who you have to deal with. Corrupt politicians, the mafia, unions, all different nationality types as workers and construction workers and service operators and all these different things. All these different things he had to deal with to become the top developer in Manhattan. So he's a gangster, right? And so what this situation economically embodies with Trump is that when you personally have a global overall plan for your life, as he does with the American economy, you just don't give a fuck what people think, right? He implemented his plan, CNN, Fox News, Business Network, MSNBC, whatever. All these people were criticizing him. Stock market's going down. We're going to get into a recession. This is not going to work. We're going into a trade war. This is going to escalate to real physical war. He didn't give a fuck. He just said, tariff, 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 tariff. You want to come to the table to bargain? Let's negotiate. Because why? The third or fourth principle. When you have the leverage, it's easier to not give a fuck. The U.S. is 40% of global consumption. He has the leverage. He has the leverage. So he's like, tariff, 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 tariff. If you want to hold on to your tariff or tariff us back, we're going to tariff you more until you yield and go to zero. And then now we open up trade discussions again. We have the leverage, and that's what it's going to be with China. China does not import many U.S. goods, but they export a hell of a lot of goods to the U.S. And so when you turn that off, I saw a video today of an empty Chinese factory assembly line. Mega, 100,000 square feet, just empty, power off, sitting still, because they can't sell their products to the U.S. with this tariff. So when you have the leverage, it's easier to say, fuck off, essentially. And so as you grow your business career, as you personally develop, applying these principles to you, figure out and position yourself to where if you're going to negotiate, you have maximum leverage. So you can tell whoever you're negotiating against to just fuck off if they don't take your terms. That's basically it. So my personal view on the situation, chill and relax, man. Markets goes down again, I'm gonna go buy some more. Market goes down again, go and buy some more. Bitcoin went down to, I think, like 76K, picked up some more. Yeah. Where's it at now? I don't think, like 82,000, I think. It just bounced back with all the markets. I mean, if you know what the global plan is, you know how to create opportunity within it, right? Stick to the plan, create some leverage. If people don't agree with you, tell them to fuck off, stay the course, keep going. And that's the lesson through all of this chaos that's going on in the markets right now. I love chaos because if you see through it, it creates a tremendous amount of opportunity. Most of the wealth ever created or aggregated occurred during times like this. When there's mass chaos, nobody knows what the fuck is going on, or allegedly, or most of the people like, I don't know, I'm screaming out, I'm gonna sell everything. That's when wealth is created. So be astute out there. If you need help, if you want ideas, whatever, DM me, talk to me, whatever. I'm very approachable on top of everything else that I do. So with that, I'll close the episode as I close every day, which is when I lay down, close my eyes, head hits the pillow. I thank God and the universe one more time for a day to have hopefully been great, live to my fullest controllable potential, hopefully have inspired one person at least, and then I'm living a life fulfilled. And so with that, I want to thank you all out there for listening, liking, commenting, following, and sharing. If your knowledge swole, which I know for a fact your knowledge swole in this episode, please do share the show. That is how we grow. And other ways to support the show actually is go to cureconnector.com. These are the other enterprises I run. cureconnector.com, legacyxtoken.com, PFASinjuryattorney.com, where we are now over 1,000 cancer clients that we're helping recover damages against contamination in the water with the forever chemical called PFAS. So if you know anybody with cancer, please do send them to us. PFAS Lawyer on X or PFASinjuryattorney.com. And we're starting a new campaign called Video Game Addiction. If you know anybody that has spent more than 15 hours on average per week on video gaming and they have psychiatric problems or issues with gaming, send them to us because we are joining a litigation against the gaming manufacturers that intentionally designed games to be addicting. So it's called Video Game Addiction. So support the show, supports my efforts. Be great today, but be even more grateful. And I'm looking forward to bringing you another episode very, very soon.